What's up, Infected? Welcome to the Kwarenteen. Today we'll be taking a look at a game that's going to be coming to Kickstarter by the name of Dawn of the Archmage. Now, if you like what you see here in this video, I will have a link up in the corner and down in the descriptions, as usual. That'll take you directly to that Kickstarter link once it's available, and it'll take you directly to that Kickstarter page that will provide way more information than I can possibly cover in a video. The next thing I have to advise is, of course, everything you see here is a Kickstarter prototype of the game. The actual game is going to come with minis and much nicer components, so keep that in mind while watching the rest of this video. The best way I can describe Dawn of the Archmage is going to be Mage Wars Light meets the gladiator combat of Spartacus with minis. And that's really the best way I can describe it. It is just an arena brawler with minis where you're chucking dice and screaming gladiator, gladiator lines from the movie. And that's really the best way I can describe the game. So let's just go over to the overview. Now, I do need to make note, as of course these are Kickstarter prototypes, these tiles wound up being much darker than they were supposed to be, and these will be miniatures with colored bases during the Kickstarter and the final product. So when playing Dawn of the Archmage, a turn is fairly simple. The players have 2 soul stones that you see down here that will start face down, and then you will have 2 summoning stones, one of which will start face up. So in the beginning of your first turn, to start the game, you're going to draw 3 cards. Now those 3 cards can be anything from a level 0, level 1, level 2, or level 3 monster, or it could consist of a spell. Now the spells are pretty straightforward. They just tell you when you can play them. They don't cost anything. You just discard the card and do what it says when it says you can play it. However, the monsters here, such as this level 1, would allow you to play this card by spending 1 summoning crystal and or combination of soul stones. So for example, if I wanted to summon this 3, if I had 2 summoning stones and a soul stone, or 2 soul stones and a summoning stone, I can go ahead and flip all of them face down and I can summon this level 3. But as my first turn, I may only summon this 0, for example. So if I did, you're going to choose which one of these colors you're going to put it on, and you'll place the monster in that card location, and you'll take that miniature out and you'll put it on one of your 2 summoning locations that you've placed out on the map. Now, it should also be noted this map can be set up theoretically however you want. There are a few recommended setups in the game, but you could make kind of any kind of map that you want, and it's pretty flexible to fit your personal playstyle. Then next, after you've summoned that creature, you're going to look at their health. So we'll take this level 3 for example. He has 10 health, and he fatigues once he hits 4 health. So this monster here, he has no health, but he has fatigues at 3. So that means you're going to find the purple cubes, because he's the purple monster, and I'll put 3 purple cubes on him, and then I'll put a fatigue marker on him just so my opponents know that that is a fatigued monster. He will be rolling 1 less die than he normally would, to a minimum of 1. And you're allowed to summon on any portal that does not have a monster on it. So for example, if I were to summon another creature, say a level 1 right here, and had to flip this face down to show that I summoned him, I wouldn't really be able to summon anything else because both of my portals are now blocked. Now if you notice, my opponent can very easily glance across the board and see this as a purple base, and he sees the purple cubes are right here. So it's pretty simple to glance across the board and my opponent just can see exactly how much health that monster has on a passing glance. However, before you summon any monsters, you are allowed to sacrifice a monster to be able to get a soul stone back. So obviously, my first turn, there's nothing to sacrifice, but my next turn, I could say sacrifice this one and put him into the discard pile, of course returning all of this back to their supply, and then I would gain a soul stone. So I would start next round, if I didn't get anything else, I would start next round with a summoning power of 2 instead of 1. But after the summoning phase, you then go to the movement phase. So you're going to roll 2d6, so in this case I rolled an 11, and you're going to choose the longest board edge, and you will add the number of tiles in that board edge. So in this case, we're at a 2x2, so I would add 2 to this 11, so I have a total movement of 13. You're allowed to move any of your monsters a total of 13. So if I were to spend, say, 5 on this monster, I would have 8 left to move something else. It should also be noted, the movement in this game is purely orthogonal, unless something says otherwise. There are no diagonals in the game. Some locations, such as the ones with the white lines that you see here, they require an additional movement point to move in. So if I were to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that would be 7 of my 13 movement points. Other locations, like you see here and out on the field, that have the black area in the middle, and you can clearly tell it looks a little raised, those are impassable. Now, when moving your creatures, there are a few limitations on movement. The biggest ones being you cannot move through your own creatures, you cannot move onto a summoning portal of another player. If you move onto a space with an enemy creature, you must stop and end that creature's movement, just to name a few. Now, once you've done with all of your movement, now it turns to the combat phase. So any creatures that share a space, such as you see right here, we would roll off depending on the level of creature. So in our example, let's assume that I have a level 1 and my opponent has a level, let's say, 3. A level 0 rolls 1 die, a level 1 and 2 roll 2, and a level 3 rolls 3 dice. Now if a creature is fatigued, it will roll 1 less die than it should. So in this example, my level 1 would get 2 dice, my opponent's level, let's say level 3, would get 3 dice. And then you would wind up rolling your dice and you compare highest die result to highest die result. So yellow got a 6 and red unfortunately got a 1. So there's a difference of 5 there, so red would take 5 damage off of his creature. Now if you took 1 damage and 1 damage only, you can choose to stay in the fight. However, if you lose the fight by more than 1 damage, then you must roll a d6 and compare it to the chart that you show here. It will tell you which direction you would be able to retreat, or 2 special ones if you roll a 1 or a 6. In this example, the winning mage gets to move the fleeing opponent any direction or choose if they stay in the fight. So in this example, my opponent may just decide I'm gonna stay in the fight because my creature here has 6 life points, so he's down to a single life point. So I would be getting 1 die because he's also fatigued, and my opponent would still be rolling their full complement of 3 dice. However, in this event, because I rolled a 6 and my opponent's highest is actually a 3, then my opponent would of course take 3 damage. But these do absolutely nothing because you only compare highest die to highest die. You would continue to do this until every fight is resolved and nobody is sharing a space. Either the opponent has died or they have retreated to an adjacent area. Now if you kill your opponent's monster, you get its card because the level that you see in the top right counts as its level, its summoning cost, and its victory point value. So by killing this level 3, I may have gotten 3 victory points out of the 8 that I'm required to win. In addition to gaining that monster as a victory point, you also would get to flip one of your soul stones face up because you've captured the essence of that monster to be able to then summon for future use. After all the combat's resolved, you're going to move on to the wrap-up phase. Now during the wrap-up phase, if you have a face-down summoning stone, you're going to flip a single one face up. So you will eventually be able to summon stronger and stronger creatures. Then you will draw 2 cards from your deck and add them to your hand, and then you discard down to 4 cards if you have more than 4. And then it is now your opponent's turn, which will then go through the exact same thing. And this is going to go back and forth or around in a circle, because it does play up to 4, until one player has reached their total of 8 victory points worth of kills, and they will be declared the Archmage. Alright, Dawn of the Archmage. What do I think about it? Well, some of you guys may recognize a lot of the art and everything, and you'd be right, because I reviewed a game not long ago called Archmage Origins, which was a pretty good little game. And this is, I guess, a sequel where Now you're all fighting in a gladiatorial arena, you're summoning these monsters, and you're sending them at each other to fight, and you're killing your opponent's monsters, and you're stealing their souls to then use them to summon your big monsters, and it's just an all-around slugfest. So what do I think about the game? Well, overall, the game is fantastic. It's a nice little gladiatorial dice chucker. So if you like the the gladiator phase of, say, a game like Spartacus, or you like Mage Wars, but you don't like setting up the deck and it's hard to bring out because, let's face it, Mage Wars is a huge game, then this might be right up your alley. It's pretty simple. It's not very rule intensive. It's fairly quick to play. And it's just a good, fun dice chucker. However, there's a couple things that I do want to make known to some people because, I like to do a balanced review. Because right out the gates, yes, I recommend Dawn of the Archmage. The game is incredibly fun. But, there are a couple negatives that are going to turn some people off. Such as the decks of cards and the dice. So there is an element of luck involved. You could lose purely because you just rolled really poorly. Maybe you should worship your demon gods a little better and you might roll better. And then on top of that, if your opponent is pulling out their 2s and 3s and they're just raffle stomping your creatures, then they're getting soul stones, they're then being able to summon bigger creatures, so it does have a little bit of a get richer system to it as well. That mixed with the luck is going to turn a lot of people off. But outside of that, yes, that kind of is an issue for some people, and I wasn't a huge fan of that, but the game plays so quick and plays so simply. It's a good drink with some friends and chuck some dice and, repeat gladiator lines. Somebody at some point will throw some dice, destroy somebody's monster, and then scream, "Are you not entertained?" and possibly throw something across your house. And that happened every time we played this game. Usually it was me, but, whatever. But on that same note, that luck swings the other way, because 9 times out of 10, the exact next turn, I'm going to roll nothing but 1s, and your level 1 is going to demolish my level 3, which brings me to my favorite part of the game. Now, I'm not a huge fan of dice-based combat. I'll play them, but they're not the greatest. However, this uses my favorite form of dice-based combat, where you're only comparing the highest die to the highest die. And what this does is it means the guy that's throwing the lower number of dice still has a chance to come out on top, because yes, the guy that's throwing 3 dice statistically has a higher chance of rolling higher numbers. But if I roll a 6, I've kept up with you. So it keeps you in the fight, even though you're only rolling 1 or 2 dice against somebody who's rolling 2 or 3. So it keeps you in that fight, and you always feel like you kind of have a chance. Now, I'd like to see a little bit more luck mitigation with the dice rolls, maybe some spells, because there are some spells that can help a little bit, but I'd like to see some kind of mitigation. Maybe being able to spend soul stones and summoning crystals to add like a +1 to your roll, or some, I don't know, something just to kind of mitigate losing purely because of luck. Because a number of the players that played this, because I think we played it once 4 players, 2 or 3 times as 2 players, and I played it once as a 3 player. And everybody overall enjoyed it, but a few of the people were getting very frustrated because they weren't rolling well, weren't getting their good cards. We had one game that the guy didn't get a single level 3 the entire game, and here I was, my opening hand was 2 level 3s and a level 1. So it wound up kind of being a smack in the face, and the game has its problems. But overall, if you can get over the luck and you're fine with that, and you just want a good arena brawler, you want to roll up your sleeves and just start duking it out in the arena, the game is a lot of fun. It plays quickly, plays light. My 10-year-old played it, and it played just fine. So anyways, I definitely recommend Dawn of the Archmage. Check it out on Kickstarter if you like what you saw here. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time in the Kwarenteen.